Hi there, assessment students. It's Dr. Ryder, and this is a short video in response to your 1-minute papers from class on January 24th, 2018. So the topics I'm going to talk about here in this particular video in response to some of the items. Not sure we got enough from our first client meeting. You repeated some points a lot. Learning outcomes confused me. Assessment question examples, and then kind of what I like to end these with is a group work report, which is a summary of your kind of overall mean in terms of how you're thinking about your group work so far. So the first item, not sure we got enough from our first client meeting. Well, you know, the nice thing is I think the clients are fairly willing to work with you because they'd like to have good work, and so I would encourage you to schedule a follow-up meeting, or at the very least, send an email if you have some specific questions. You also might ask your client if there are any particular stakeholders whose perspectives or background information, and by that I mean stakeholders might be able to provide you with some background information, might be helpful to your project. But I would ask your client first before reaching out to certain stakeholders, I suppose. You know, I would be sensitive to, you know, who they might want you to talk to or think would be appropriate for you to talk to. There are websites here at UNCW, despite the fact that I think, you know, we've got a lot of web pages that are outdated or have broken links. But those might include the unit, office, or program where you can learn some different things about the functioning or functional nature of the program. I think, you know, for some of the projects that you all have, it would be a good idea to go and see something in action. So the service experience, the weekly service project certainly would be appropriate to do that, to kind of get an idea of what exactly happens in that experience. If it's possible for you to kind of see and look through the materials for the professional development or onboarding of the undergraduate employees in campus life, that could be helpful. And then certainly, you know, going and participating. And I hear there's a big Glow type thing with UNC Weekends this weekend. You know, could be a good way to learn about that as well. There are websites that are available through the Division of Student Affairs, and then you can also find on the website for the Office of the Chancellor a version of the UNCW strategic plan for that particular aspect. And then, you know, if it seems necessary, and really this is about finding relevant information, you know, for your project, Randall Library archives materials that are produced, such as annual reports and other kind of documentation on lots of different programs across campus. So that's another place where you could look. And a good deal of that stuff is available to you online via the from the library. So, you know, follow up, another meeting, send an email. Don't email questions that you might be able to find, you know, the answers on the web or in some of these other documents. So, you know, there you go. You repeated some points a lot tonight. Was this to impress on us their importance? Well, if you noticed or paid attention, I just repeated some points in the previous slide, referring back to the follow-up meeting, email, and that kind of stuff. I will admit that I tend to do that. I tend to sometimes kind of run in a little bit of a circle. I tend to want to come back to a particular point if it seems relevant, either to emphasize it or to make it again. But yeah, I mean, you know, I repeat things sometimes, you know, also to impress upon you their importance. And there are moments too when I might repeat myself because perhaps it seemed to me that maybe it wasn't sinking in, or there wasn't kind of full attention and engagement the first time. That might be a bit, you know, of the same thing. You know, like kind of pushing the elevator button multiple times, you're going to still get the same result. But yes, I will sometimes do that. And, you know, I am open to anyone kind of respectfully saying, you know, I think we've got it, if I'm doing that. So, you know, you feel free certainly to give me some more feedback about that. It certainly isn't because I, you know, want to sound like a broken record. be irritating. But there you go. Learning outcomes confused me. So let me see if I can maybe clear some things up. So if you ask most faculty members who spend time doing lesson planning, or K-12 instructors who spend time doing lesson planning, I think you would probably learn from them that they, all to a one, find that writing learning outcomes is one of the more difficult parts of teaching, or like lesson planning and program planning. I also think, for that reason, that it can be difficult when you're kind of first trying to wrap your head around it in the context of a project like this. So the first question is, does your objective assessment have written outcomes already for it? And if the answer to that is yes, that's great. But it would still probably behoove you to take a look at them and maybe even tweak them a little bit. And I'll explain why, hopefully, in the next few minutes. So affirmative, great. Still take a look at them, and let's take a look and maybe clean them up a little bit, even if it's just a back of the envelope sort of exercise that you might do separate from your project. Nope, there's no learning outcomes or no outcomes that exist for this program, but it could still very much benefit you by taking the time to develop them for this project. And again, it doesn't have to be a formal part of your plan necessarily, though you also could do it. Nothing saying you can't, but it could still be very helpful. And it's helpful because it helps you write answerable assessment questions. And it also, part of that process and part of what makes these questions answerable, it gives you a chance to identify and define what success or effectiveness or improvement or any number of these other sorts of terms that kind of tend to be used in an assessment context mean, but without any sort of anchoring to understand like what exactly or how we define them, they kind of become vague and somewhat meaningless. So I'm going to review the ABCD method again and try to do so a little bit more succinctly, but also perhaps more clearly. You can think of this as being somewhat like a formula, but maybe not like a Coke formula. Sure, we'll take that. That's not really a formula, it's diagramming sentences, but it still works. So A, audience, who is doing the learning? So the first thing you want to be able to define is who's doing the learning, or who are the participants. So that's your audience, the A. We can add these up, and that's kind of what we're doing. B, the behavior. What should the audience be able to do? How should the audience change as a result of doing the activity? So here we have it's essentially your Bloom's taxonomy again, but it's with a light bulb. This is all about action verbs. And so you want to find, the action verb that best represents what the outcome is, at the lower levels in terms of knowledge or comprehension, or higher levels in terms of application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation. What's the one that best suits the particular experience? So the behavior, the action verb, what should they be able to do, and how should the audience change? C, the condition or the circumstance. Under what condition will behavior occur? The behavior being the learning or the change. Perhaps it's attending Beach Blast. I don't know. Or perhaps it's something else. But that's what C is. C is the condition or the activity that is expected to encourage or produce this change in behavior or learning. And then D, the degree, level of proficiency, or change that's demonstrated as a result of C. So we have this proficiency chart here that is just something grabbed from the web. A parrot, a survivor, a reporter, are the kind of like the large groupings, or a basic user, independent user, or a proficient user up top. But that's, a way, or perhaps, some kind of a scale or rubric to look at and to understand what's the demonstrated level of change in knowledge or proficiency in a skill, or change in disposition as a result of the conditions. So we can perhaps maybe best do this by taking an existing outcome statement. So this is why even if you've got an existing outcome statement already for the program, it's a smart idea to kind of take and work with it. But we can strengthen this existing outcome statement by applying the ABCDs. So gain knowledge and experience collaborating with others. Let's kind of talk about why that could potentially be somewhat challenging in terms of an outcome statement. The audience. Now, the audience for this is implied on the website, and I took this from the Leadership Development Program that is part of the Office for Student Leadership and Engagement here on campus. So you can talk to Dr. Russell, and Dr. Russell can be cranky with me, and I'm cool with that. But the audience is implied, so we'll kind of not pay attention or not kind of critique that too terribly much. Behavior. Okay, knowledge of collaboration, so gaining knowledge of collaboration, I can live with that. And then gain experience collaborating with others. Well, experience is squishy because what is it just really about gaining experience, or is it about something that's perhaps related to knowledge or improvement about collaborating with others? So yeah, maybe kind of 50% for this one. Condition, through what specific circumstances or activities? This isn't really described on the website or implied on the website, and so it's hard to know from the statement how people are going to gain knowledge and experience collaborating with others. Degree, well, what change or increase proficiency? You're going to gain knowledge. Well, how much? What kinds of skills or what kinds of collaborative dispositions might actually be developed, and to what degree? So we can improve or strengthen this existing outcome statement in the following way. Through the design and completion of a campus service project, LDP participants will demonstrate improved collaborative dispositions and skills of at least one level as measured by the value rubric. The value rubric being a set of rubrics from the Association of American Colleges and Universities for different employer-demanded skills, knowledge, and abilities that UNCW uses in lots of its assessment efforts. So ABCD, audience, LDP participants. The behavior, demonstrate improved collaborative dispositions and skills. The condition, through the design and completion of a campus service project. And the degree, of at least one level as measured by the value rubric. So what this gives you is an easy way to write the assessment question, but it also gives you a sense for what the activity is or the behavior. So, what the behavior is, so improving collaborative dispositions and skills. The activity, which I kind of decided might be the design and completion of a campus service projects, and exactly what we're expecting to see as an outcome. So by knowing, we want it to be at least one level, if we have students who maybe don't improve one level, maybe they don't get credit, for this particular outcome. Or maybe, we need to kind of take a look and see what we need to do differently to improve how we meet that outcome. But it gives some sort of an anchor. And as I said, it also makes writing the assessment question pretty easy, or wicked easy, as we would say in New England. How much should LDP participants improve their collaborative dispositions and skills through design and completion of a campus service project as measured using the value rubric? And so we can keep aside this one level increase as kind of what we know to be our, kind of like the target that we're shooting for. But it gives us a really simple, straightforward, and very easy and measurable assessment question. We know that we're looking at LDP participants. We know that we're looking at collaborative dispositions and skills. We know how that's measured using the value rubric. So that then becomes what we would use in the assessment as part of our data collection or as our evaluative tool in the process. And then, we know that what we're looking at in particular are LDP participants who did the completion of a campus service project. We can also add a question that might feel a little bit better to some of us. What parts of the experience did participants find contributed most to their learning? So, which might lend itself well to a focus group or some other methods of data collection. I'm going to skip over that. How are you feeling about working with your group at this point? Things seem to be going well. 4.77 out of 5, with a 5 being the big broad smiley face. So kind of right there, splitting